The wedding was yesterday. Today, she was in an elevator with another man, going up to a hotel room. I'm not speaking in metaphors. I mean it literally. Less than 24 hours after we said, I do, kissed in front of friends and family, danced to our first song, I watched my wife, barefoot and laughing, disappear behind silver elevator doors with a man she'd met at the pool. I was still in my wedding suit, not cleaned up, not recovered. My tie was loose, boutonniere wilted. The concierge had just called me sir and offered congratulations. I didn't even know what I was coming down to ask. Maybe late checkout, maybe breakfast hours. Doesn't matter now. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and just didn't care. She touched his arm, the way women do when they want it to mean something. He smiled, confident, not nervous, like they'd already agreed on everything. The elevator closed, and I sat there, staring at my own reflection in the glossy tile floor. Still married. Technically, I still had the ring on. I remember looking at it, right then, turning it with my thumb, wondering what the hell just happened. But the truth? I already knew. I didn't even go up after them. What was the point? There's no speech for that. No confrontation that makes it make sense. That moment, the cold, numb gut punch of it, it said more than any screaming match ever could. And that wasn't the first time I felt something was off. Just the first time I couldn't pretend anymore. Now, people will say there are always signs. And yeah, there were. On the wedding day. The night before. Even in the way she kissed me during our vows too fast. No eye contact afterward. A few guests noticed, but no one said anything. You don't ruin a wedding over a weird vibe, right? I wish someone had. I wish I had. Because this story, it goes deeper than just a one-night betrayal. What happened after, and everything I would go on to uncover in the days that followed, changed me completely. But let's rewind. Let's go back to the beginning. The wedding day. The little things I ignored. The things she said. The smile that didn't reach her eyes. Let's start there. If you looked at the photos, you'd say it was a beautiful wedding. Outdoor ceremony. Early fall. The kind of weather you pray for. Sunlight cutting through the trees just enough to make everything glow but not enough to make you sweat. Her dress was classic. Not over the top, but elegant. And she looked beautiful. Of course she did. But that's the thing about pictures. They only capture what people want you to see. What they don't show is how she barely looked at me when she walked down the aisle. I noticed it in the moment, but I brushed it off. I told myself she was nervous, overwhelmed, emotional. But now, looking back, it was like she didn't want to be there. Like she was doing something she'd already decided wasn't going to last. She smiled. Yes. But it was the kind of smile people use in job interviews. Polished. Measured. Nothing behind it. During the vows, I choked up. Not full sobs, but my voice cracked. I'd waited years for this. We talked about it on late-night car rides, during lazy Sundays in bed, over cheap wine and takeout. I meant every word I said to her. And when it was her turn, she rushed through them. No hesitation, but no wait either. It was like she was reading lines. She didn't cry, didn't even tremble. I chalked it up to nerves again. Told myself she was just trying to hold it together. Everyone said she was just composed, classy, not overly sentimental. But deep down, I felt it. A distance. After the ceremony, I tried to talk to her, really talk to her, just the two of us, while the guests moved to the reception area. I held her hand behind the venue, in this little clearing with some ivy-covered fencing, and I said, "Can you believe we're married?" And she just nodded. "Crazy, right?" she said, glancing over my shoulder toward the photographers. That was it. No, I love you. No smile, no squeeze of the hand. Just crazy, right? I should have known then. That moment haunts me more than the elevator, because that was my moment. My private little moment as a husband. And she gave me nothing. At the reception, she was all smiles. Mingling, laughing with her friends, taking pictures with relatives she didn't even like. She looked like the perfect bride. Everyone told me how lucky I was. "Man, you scored," my cousin whispered. "She's a knockout. She's got that movie star energy," one of the bridesmaids said, half joking, half jealous. And I just smiled and nodded, played the part, because that's what you do. You don't say, "Actually, she hasn't looked me in the eyes all day." You don't say, "I don't feel married." Instead, you drink, you dance, You pose for the first dance while the DJ plays that song you picked together 2 years ago in a Target parking lot. And you try to forget the emptiness in her grip when she holds your hand. I remember my mom pulling me aside, gently. She said, "She's just overwhelmed. Some people don't show their emotions like others." I nodded, because I needed to believe that. I needed to believe this wasn't a mistake. But as I stood outside our suite later that night, door closed, waiting while she changed into something more comfortable, I realized I didn't feel married at all. I felt alone. I couldn't explain it. I didn't know how to put it into words at the time, but I felt like she'd already left. I just didn't know how literal that would become. I didn't sleep that night. She came back around 2 a.m. hair wet, smelling like hotel soap. She said she'd been in the sauna, then hung out with a group from the bar. Claimed they ended up in the hot tub, and she lost track of time. She said it so casually, like I was the one being weird for asking. I just stared at her. My mouth was dry. My heart was pounding, but I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "What group?" She shrugged, already pulling off her earrings. "Just people. Some guy from the pool earlier. I think his name was Max? Or Matt. I don't know." She didn't look at me when she said it. Then she laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Don't look at me like that. It's not like I did anything." I didn't know what to say. We were married yesterday. And I was already hearing, "It's not like I did anything," while she stood in front of me in a hotel robe, brushing out her hair like we were roommates, not newlyweds. She didn't kiss me goodnight, just slid into bed, back turned, scrolled her phone a few minutes, then put it face down on the nightstand. I laid there, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was crazy. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. Asked me if I wanted to do the breakfast buffet. Smiled like she hadn't walked out of our hotel room for 5 hours without telling me where she was or who she was with. And I went along with it. I smiled back, said sure, pretended to eat. Tried to stop my hands from shaking when she reached across the table to steal a piece of my toast. Because here's the truth I didn't want to admit to myself. I already knew. Not the details, not the full picture. But in my gut, I knew something happened. Something I couldn't unknow, even if she never confessed, even if no one else believed me. I started watching, listening, looking for things. And I didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, I caught a glimpse of her phone when she was in the bathroom. She left it on the bed, screen still lit up. There was a notification from Instagram. New message from poolside_Max. I stared at it, didn't touch the phone, didn't open anything. Just looked at that name and felt my stomach drop. Max, so she did remember his name. And if he was just some guy she met at the pool, why were they messaging? She came out of the bathroom a minute later, towel around her head, and I watched her face when she saw the phone. Just for a second, a flicker of panic. Then she smiled and picked it up quickly, flipping the screen down before I could even pretend not to notice. I said nothing. She said nothing. But everything inside me screamed. I didn't want to accuse her. Not yet. I needed to know for sure. So I started paying attention. Quietly. No confrontations. No drama. But I began keeping notes. Times. Names. Behavior. Like I was building a case. Only I didn't know what for yet. I still wanted to believe maybe I was wrong. That she was just making dumb decisions. That this was immaturity. A mistake. Something forgivable. But deep down, I think I already knew there was no coming back from this. The rest of the trip was a performance. She smiled at all the right moments. Took a few staged pictures of us on the beach. Called me her husband in this breezy, casual tone that sounded more like a joke than something sacred. She even posted a photo of us. Said something nice in the caption. Her friends commented, saying we looked perfect together. I tried to believe it. I kept thinking maybe I'd misread everything. But on the fourth night, I stopped doubting. We were in bed. She had fallen asleep beside me. Her breathing was slow and even. I hadn't moved for over an hour. Just stared into the dark, thinking. Then her phone lit up. It was facing up for once. A message flashed on the screen. That was wild last night. Still thinking about it. And right above it, the name, poolside_Max. That was the guy from the elevator. The man she barely remembered. The one she claimed she talked to for 5 minutes in a hot tub with a group of people. I didn't need to open the message. I didn't need to see the rest of the conversation. That one line told me everything. She hadn't just been gone. She hadn't just been reckless. She'd done exactly what I thought she'd done, and now I had proof. I didn't wake her. I didn't say a word. I got out of bed, went into the bathroom, and stared at myself in the mirror for 10 minutes. And then I said it out loud. She cheated on you. It hit like cold steel. I had to say it to make myself believe it. And then I realized something even worse. She didn't even try to hide it. She wasn't careful. She wasn't discreet. It was like she didn't care if I saw. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She kissed me on the cheek, asked if I wanted breakfast. She smiled like we were still on our honeymoon, like the night before hadn't happened. And I said yes. I said I'd eat. But something inside me had changed. From that moment on, I stopped hoping she'd tell the truth. I stopped waiting for her to feel guilty or come clean. I knew what she was. I just didn't know how far it went. So I stopped reacting. And I started paying attention. When we got home, everything looked normal on the surface. She unpacked, folded laundry, lit a candle in the kitchen like she always did after trips. She turned on music, ordered takeout, posted a picture of us from the beach with some caption about being happy. I sat on the couch and watched her move around our apartment like nothing was wrong. And I realized something. She wasn't hiding what she did. She just didn't think I'd ever look. She thought I'd never question her. That night, she went out for drinks with a friend. I waited until the door closed behind her. Then I opened her laptop. She always used the same password, her childhood dog's name, and her birth year. It hadn't changed. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I just wanted answers. I started with her desktop, a folder labeled Archive. I clicked it open, half expecting old receipts or travel confirmations. What I found were screenshots, conversations, photos, dozens of them. Some dated months back, some a year. One thread stood out. A guy named Anthony. She met him at a friend's bachelorette weekend. I remembered her telling me about that trip. She said it was uneventful. But these messages told a different story. She had been talking to him for over a year, flirting, sexting, telling him she missed him, telling him she felt trapped in our relationship, that I was too safe, that I would never cheat, and that somehow made me less exciting. She planned our wedding while texting another man about how bored she was with me. And I just sat there, reading everything in silence. It felt like being punched in the stomach, slowly, over and over. 1,000 tiny betrayals laid out on the screen. Not just the honeymoon, not just a one-time mistake, a pattern, a mindset. I checked her Google location history next. 3 months before the wedding, she told me she was visiting her sister, said they were doing a reset weekend. Turns out, her phone data put her in a hotel downtown. The same weekend Anthony posted a photo from the same hotel bar. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was empty, numb, and I knew something else, too. This wasn't over. There were more lies, more names, more nights she said she was somewhere and wasn't. She got home around midnight, a little buzzed, kicked off her shoes, dropped onto the couch, and smiled at me. I looked right at her and asked, "Did you ever cheat on me before the wedding?" She didn't even hesitate. She laughed, then said, "Seriously? No, of course not." She said it like I was crazy for even asking. That was the moment I knew I was finished. Not heartbroken, not in shock, just done. And from that point on, I was no longer her husband. I was someone watching her very closely and waiting for the right time to show her who she really was. For about 2 weeks, I said nothing. I watched her move around our apartment like nothing had changed. I watched her laugh at her phone, pour coffee, fold laundry, hum to herself while scrolling, like she wasn't living a lie. It's weird, the moment when love switches off. It doesn't usually come with a bang, not even a sharp break. For me, it was more like a light dimming behind her eyes. A realization that she wasn't the person I thought I married, and never had been. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. She would come up behind me on the couch and rest her chin on my shoulder. I'd feel nothing, just an instinct to get up and move. She started asking if I was okay, said I seemed quiet. I'd just nod, blame work, say I was tired, tell her I was fine. But inside, I was planning. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. Not exactly. Divorce? Probably. But I needed someone to talk to first. Someone outside of it. Someone who knew me before all of this. So I called my older brother, Chris. We hadn't been super close the past few years, life, distance, whatever. But growing up, he was always the one who told it straight. I didn't want pity. I wanted clarity. He picked up on the second ring. I didn't even start with small talk. I just said, she cheated on me, the day after the wedding. He was silent for a second. Then he said, you sure? I told him everything. The elevator. The message from Max. The old messages I found with Anthony. The lies. The photos. The way she looked me in the eye and told me nothing had happened. He didn't interrupt once. When I was done, he let out a slow breath and said, all right. So what are you going to do? I didn't answer right away. I don't know, I said. I don't even know what I'm feeling. Yeah, he said. That's normal. You're still in shock. Then he said something I'll never forget. This isn't about the guy at the pool, or the ones before that. It's about who she is. That's the part that hurts. He was right. That was the part that tore me open. That I had spent years of my life believing in someone who had no real interest in protecting me, respecting me, or even being honest. I thought I was marrying someone with a future. I married someone with a secret past and no conscience. Chris told me to document everything, to take screenshots, save texts, emails, photos. He said, if she's that careless, she might try to turn it around on you. Stay smart. I thanked him. He said to call any time. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I had a foothold. Something solid under my feet. I went back into the apartment and she was on the phone, laughing. She looked up and smiled at me like everything was perfect. And all I could think was, you have no idea who you're married to anymore. Because I wasn't the same person who stood at that altar. I wasn't going to be the man she could lie to and charm and brush aside. From that moment forward, I was preparing to leave. Not just physically, legally, emotionally, permanently. And she wouldn't even see it coming. It happened on a Thursday. I was working from home, sitting at the dining table with my laptop open, though I wasn't doing much of anything, just watching her out of the corner of my eye. She came out of the bedroom mid-morning, hair still damp, wearing one of those oversized sweatshirts she always threw on after a shower. She poured herself coffee, then leaned against the counter and stared at me a few seconds longer than usual. What's going on with you lately? She asked. I looked up. What do you mean? You're quiet, she said. Like, really quiet. You've been weird ever since we got back. I gave her a casual shrug. I'm fine. Work's been heavy. She didn't buy it. I could tell by the way she didn't move, didn't take a sip, just kept watching me. You sure everything's okay between us? The words hit weird, like a test. I could feel her trying to read my face. Maybe she sensed something. Or maybe she'd pulled this routine before, try to act sweet, poke around gently, see if the person on the other end suspects anything. I played it cool. We're fine, I said, closing my laptop. I'm just tired. She nodded slowly, still watching. Then she said, you're not mad about anything, right? There it was. Not, did I hurt you? Not, did I do something wrong? Just, you're not mad, right? Like the only thing that mattered was how much I knew, not what she actually did. I stood and stretched. Nope, nothing to be mad about. She smiled, but there was a flicker in her eyes, like she didn't quite believe me. She was starting to feel it. The shift. The way I moved differently, talked less, looked through her instead of at her. That afternoon, I caught her scrolling through her messages while sitting on the couch. She kept glancing over at me, her screen tilted slightly away. Then she stood up, phone in hand, and walked into the bedroom with the door half shut. I followed a few minutes later, quietly. The door was cracked, and I heard her voice. Low. Urgent. She was on the phone with someone. I don't know. He's just acting weird. Like, different. I don't think he knows anything, but I'm not sure. Then silence. She listened to whoever was on the other end. I couldn't hear their voice, just hers. Then she said, no. I deleted everything. I'm not stupid. That was all I needed to hear. She had something to hide, and she was scared it might come out. The rest of the night, she was overly affectionate, tried to sit closer to me on the couch, played with my hair, laughed too loud at things that weren't funny. I could feel the performance, and I let her think it was working. But in my mind, I was already putting the next steps in motion. I met with a lawyer the next day. Didn't tell her. Didn't leave anything in writing. No email trail. No notes. Just a 1-hour consultation. He asked me questions. I gave him answers. Told him I wasn't ready to file yet. Not until I had everything in order. He nodded and said, "Smart. Quiet moves. Build your timeline." He told me what documents to collect, what accounts to secure, what to watch for if I thought she'd try to twist the narrative. That night, I sat across from her at dinner and listened to her talk about her weekend plans. She said Rachel might want to go out of town for a girls' night, maybe stay over somewhere. Just a spa thing. I nodded. Sounds nice. But something in her voice had changed. She wasn't just lying anymore, she was testing, seeing how much she could still get away with. I realized right then, she was already planning something, and she had no idea I'd be ready for it this time. She left on a Saturday morning, packed light, said she and Rachel were just going for a quick overnight spa thing 2 towns over. She kissed me on the cheek like always, casual, routine, like nothing had changed. I told her to have fun. She smiled, but it looked forced. The moment the doors shut, I stood there and waited, just listened to the silence, felt the apartment go still. Then I opened the drawer where I'd kept the folder, printed copies of messages, screenshots, timestamps, location data. I'd been organizing it for weeks. Every piece of proof backed up, dated, sorted. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I knew the time was coming. I called Rachel that afternoon. She and I weren't close, but she liked me, respected me, and most importantly, she didn't lie easily. That's why I picked her. I kept it short. "Hey, just wanted to check. Did she make it to you okay?" There was a pause. Then Rachel said, "Wait, what?" And right there, I knew. She wasn't with Rachel. She never was. I didn't ask anything else. Just said, "Sorry, maybe I misunderstood," and hung up. I sat in the kitchen for a while after that, just breathing, letting the numbness pass. Then I pulled up her phone location. We had each other on Find My Phone. She set it up months ago, back when we trusted each other. Probably forgot it was still active. She was at a boutique hotel an hour away, downtown. I didn't call, didn't text, didn't confront. I just took a drive, not to burst in, not to make a scene, just to see. I parked across the street, walked to the cafe near the corner entrance and sat by the window. Ordered a coffee I barely touched, and waited. An hour passed, then 2, and then I saw her, coming out of the side door in jeans, hair tied up, sunglasses on. She was laughing. The man beside her looked older, well-dressed, holding a car key fob in one hand and her overnight bag in the other. They kissed before getting in the car. Not a long kiss, not even passionate, just familiar, like people who'd done it 100 times before. And then they were gone. I drove home in silence. Not angry, just steady, cold. She texted later that evening. "Spa day was amazing. I needed this. Love you." I didn't respond. I didn't sleep much that night. Just stared at the ceiling, thinking how strange it is to be betrayed by someone who still signs texts with "love you." The next day, she came home around noon, tired, hair clean, clothes different. She dropped her bag, walked over, hugged me from behind, said, "I missed you." And I let her say it. I let her lie. But what she didn't know. Monday morning, I filed for divorce. I already had the lawyer, already had everything documented. Every conversation, every location ping, every photo. The evidence wasn't just emotional anymore, it was legal. She was about to find that out, and she would never see it coming. I waited until Friday. We both had the day off. She was in the kitchen making coffee, scrolling on her phone like usual, completely unaware. I sat at the table with the manila envelope in front of me. Inside, the papers, the documentation, everything I'd spent the last few weeks organizing, everything she never thought I'd find. She turned around, mug in hand. "Want some?" she asked. I said, "Sit down." She frowned. "What's up?" "Just sit." She sat. The silence between us was like a wall. She looked nervous now, like something in my tone cut through the routine. I slid the envelope across the table. Said nothing. She looked at it, then at me. "What is this?" "Open it." She hesitated, then pulled it open. Pages spilled out. Her phone records. Screenshots of messages. The hotel location. A copy of the divorce petition. Her face went pale. She started flipping through it, slower and slower, until her hands stopped moving. Then she looked up. "You went through my stuff?" I didn't blink. "You cheated on me. The day after our wedding. And again. And again. You've been lying since before we even got married." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. So I kept going. You weren't with Rachel last weekend. I called her. You were with someone else at a hotel downtown. I saw you. I was there. Her lip twitched. Maybe panic, maybe guilt, or maybe just realizing her act was finally over. You can't just, she started. I can, I said. And I have. The papers are ready. I already spoke with a lawyer, and I have more than enough to protect myself legally. Still, she tried. You're blowing this out of proportion. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I could see her shifting, trying to recalibrate, trying to find the right tone, the right angle. Maybe guilt, maybe seduction, maybe tears. But I was done. You don't have to say anything, I said. It's already decided. She stared at me, and for the first time in the entire relationship, she had nothing. No clever lie, no deflection, no performance. Just a blank, cold silence. I stood up, picked up the keys off the counter. I'll stay at my brother's for a while. The lawyer will be in touch. I walked out without looking back. She didn't follow, didn't call, didn't stop me. Just silence. And honestly, that was the most honest part of her I'd ever seen. The court date was set a few weeks later. No drama, no delays. She didn't contest it. I think she knew she couldn't. My lawyer had built everything cleanly, a timeline, hard evidence, proof of infidelity both before and during the marriage. Even though the marriage was short, he pushed for a formal record of misconduct. Not because you want revenge, he told me, but because it matters. If she ever tries to play victim later, this protects you. I showed up to court wearing the same suit I wore on our wedding day. Not on purpose. Just grabbed it out of the closet without thinking. Only realized what it was when I sat down outside the courtroom, waiting. Funny how something that once symbolized love ends up being what you wear to your freedom. She showed up 10 minutes late, wearing all black, minimal makeup, no jewelry, not even her wedding ring, which I figured she would have tried to pawn off by now. She didn't look at me when she walked in. Sat 2 rows ahead, beside her lawyer, flipping through something on her phone. When our names were called, we walked in, took our places. And just like that, the final act began. It was quiet, straightforward. The judge asked questions. My lawyer spoke. Her lawyer barely said anything. There was no emotional appeal, no denial. Just a quiet nod when asked if she'd read and understood the petition. I think she knew what she had done was beyond spin. There was no version of this story where she came out clean. The judge reviewed the material, asked us both if there was any dispute over the terms. I said, no. She paused just a second, then said, no, Your Honor. And that was it. 10 minutes later, the gavel dropped. It was over. We walked out into the hallway. She lingered, maybe expecting me to say something, to apologize for being cold, or maybe to open the door to some sad, polite goodbye. But I just walked past her. No nod. No final words. Nothing left to say. She called once, a few days later. I didn't answer. She didn't leave a message. Never called again. I heard through someone, maybe her cousin, I don't remember, that she moved back home with her parents for a while. Said she needed to reset. Whatever that means. I never responded to the people who asked what happened. Not really. I didn't want to relive it. Didn't want to play narrator to someone else's sickness. But I'll say this. She didn't destroy me. She exposed herself. And there's something powerful about watching someone's lies collapse under their own weight. No screaming, no vengeance, no chaos. Just quiet, deliberate truth. In the end, I walked away free. No guilt, no confusion, no second thoughts. Just a clean slate. And she walked away with the same thing she came in with herself. And honestly, that's punishment enough.